We're back from that brief interlude, and now I'm trying to load what we're talking about today.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? No, what's that noise? That's not a good noise.
In the depths of silence, where echoes remain, you were the sunrise, and I was the rain. A collision of souls, opposing in flight. I was the darkness, you yearned for the light.
You got what you need? No? Maybe?
We'll find out.
Okay, we'll find out. All right. Welcome to Faithful Dissent. My name is James Farlow.
And I'm Brian Metzger.
And today we're talking about living in a post-truth world. Dun, dun, dun. And this came up today because, Brian, you actually approached me about a conversation you had.
Yeah. I was talking with somebody on Sunday, and the conversation just turned to, trying to find a way to cope with conversations that we're having or conversations that we get to overhear in the media where truth seems to be something we're playing fast and loose with, and that people, without blushing, are saying things that are categorically not true, even when they get called out for saying things that aren't true. They still kind of double down, and they find, ways around it. And and so it's difficult to have conversations. The person I was talking to, saw it as something kind of a spiritual situation where, there was kind of a spirit of this age.
How do we live in a post-truth world where people are just lying and they double down on their lies if you call them out on the lie?
Yeah.
First, why has this happened? I think is something important to think about.
Yeah.
And I actually have some thoughts. I've actually been thinking about this for a long time. I could be wrong, but I think it has to do with the change in technology. I think that in the previous era, we were living in the era of the printing press.
Mm-hmm.
And in that era, I think we actually had a pretty cool situation where it cost money to create, books, media, knowledge. It cost money to create that, but you could sell it because people needed what you had. If you wanted to find out about, traveling the Camino de Francis, you needed to go buy a book about it. And so then because you needed to buy a book about it, that would support somebody who wanted to spend their time and money to find out about the Camino Francis and then write all that down and then sell it to you.
Okay.
And it was affordable. So, you could sell that book for $15 or $10 and most people could pay that. But if you got enough people to pay it, then it would support you actually making the book.
Sure.
Or support the company that was printing the book.
Okay.
And this was a really nice situation where we could pay for knowledge. And before the printing press, we couldn't really do that because, it was so much work to copy a book. It was people sitting in a room, copying it by hand, page after page after page. So books were expensive and it was hard to spread knowledge around. And then after the printing press, all of a sudden, you could print 1,000 books relatively cheaply if you had a printing press. And so then if you got a bunch of knowledge about the Camino Francis before the printing press, it's like you write that book and then it has to get transmitted by hand to one guy. And then that guy goes and tells some other people and
right.
Maybe it's copied again. That just doesn't work very well. But now that guy can print or get a book printed, 1,000 copies, 10,000 copies and sell it. And I think that, we call this like the age of enlightenment. And I think that's right. It was that knowledge was valued. Knowledge could be priced. Knowledge not only could be priced, but then knowledge could be discerned because you could pay somebody for their time to discern the facts or the truth or what they saw as the truth among all the different information out there and then sell it or, send it around. And universities were like the hubs of this. So the university library became this tremendously valuable place where you could get access to vast amounts of information. And so universities become this huge thing. But then the internet comes along. And in the age of the internet, it costs almost no money to write infinite text on a computer, like, on some computer memory, and then pennies on the dollar to spread that information over the entire world. So now it's very difficult. If I go on the Camino Francis and I write a book about it, well, somebody can take that book and put it online in 30 minutes in a PDF and send it everywhere for free.
Yeah.
And I mean, even Google's one of Google's mottos was information wants to be free. Information wants to be available to everybody. And I think that upended our whole system to where now it's very hard. You don't price things based on the knowledge necessarily that you get for them because the knowledge is everywhere. I mean, think about AI. You can ask it any question about anything. I can ask it right now about the Camino Francis, and it will give me large amounts of information about which way I should take and stuff like that. The book is just the reference, or if I kind of want to have something physical. So now knowledge is not valued because it's true or because it's scarce and I have to pay somebody to get it. It's valued because it makes me feel something. So now it's there's nothing in the information that I should have to pay for. What I pay for is the ability to feel something, to resonate with something, because it's not valued for its existence in and of itself. It has to do something for me.
Okay.
And so political operators, they're well, I could say things that are true, but if I say things that are interesting or angering or frustrating, then that gets people mad and they share it and they click on it.
That's true.
Because now a lot of things that you learn that are true, you're like, oh, that's interesting. That's cool. I'm glad I learned that. That's good. I like learning things. It's a nice feeling to learn things, but it's not a very powerful emotion next to anger or fear or hatred or even ecstasy. And so if I see something that makes me really, really angry, I'm probably 100 times more likely to say something about that or share it with somebody than I am if I'm just oh, that's interesting. Okay, going about my day. But if I think there's an enemy and I hate that guy or I hate what he might do, then I'll send that to others. And so now truth and the Enlightenment was the pinnacle thing. It was, we're trying to just all the Enlightenment philosophers, we can now, using the scientific method and reason and information spreading through writing, we can discover the truths about the universe. But now that's not the thing anymore. And so I just think our economic model has completely shifted. I mean, this is literally true in social media. I mean, their economic model runs on passion and rage. I mean, that's literally how they make money. Something makes some people have a feeling. They share it, they look at it, and then you attach an ad to it, and then that's how they get their money. Is you look at an ad for some random flower vase and, on Facebook Marketplace or somewhere else, and then they get a couple cents or $1 off that ad. So they depend on you being outraged. And I think it's the same thing with news. With news, what's CNN's economic model? You can go anywhere for the news. You can go to the New York Times. You can go, in the old days, you went to CNN because they were live on cable and they would have the first reporters there and they're on air all the time. So you'd be guaranteed to get the news instantly. But now, why do you go to CNN? You go to CNN because you like the way they say things. You think their host is handsome. I mean, that's how Fox's model started. Fox's model started was because we're saying things that you like and you want to hear and tell you that your perspective is the right perspective and it's all these other guys who are the crazy ones. That is all Fox's business model. And if you look at the rise of many other news sources, that's their model. It's not to be true. That might be it sometimes, but it's you can find information anywhere. So what differentiates me from any other provider? Now, I think there is starting to be a market where, because we have so much just craziness, there's starting to be a market of being okay, I can get information anywhere I want to get it from a source that I trust. But I think that market is still small compared to the market for who fits my identity.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I have in mind that, before the economic model, there really was kind of a social contract that was understood by, I guess, by most developed civilizations, that it's very difficult to maintain order if we are telling each other falsehoods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that if it would be nice to think that the Hebrew people were given the notion of not bearing a false witness by God, but they weren't the only civilization in their time that thought that there should be a high priority on
being truthful.
Being truthful. And especially, if you think of the ancient Near East or just other, civilizations in the world, you have economic contracts, but you also have social contracts, you have political contracts that, like we used to say, person's word is their bond, that there was an understanding that if somebody said, like Jesus says, let your yes be yes and your no, no, that if somebody said yes, we even have our mythology of George Washington, I cannot tell a lie.
That's right. Cherry tree.
That which turns out to be a lie, but it nevertheless illustrates, that there's a level at which we, as a culture, or as a multitude of cultures, have placed a high value on the trustworthiness of a report. Whether it's a report coming back from the war front, or a report coming back from the treasurer, or a statement we get from the bank, or something that the preacher says on Sunday morning. and then we have the opposite too, which makes me crazy, but we'll talk about, like, oh, politicians always lie. And that's really disturbing to me, that would become normative of any profession or vocation, that we would, be able to say that kind of denigrates, generally anybody you would say that of. So at some level, for society to be orderly, for us to have, something just shy of not being chaos, there is a sense in which I am trusting you to tell me the truth, and you're trusting me to tell you the truth. And when we don't do that consistently, I don't know where we go as a society or as a culture. It feels like, I see I see what you're saying about, the economy of truth, but I wonder, just at a fundamental level, if truth doesn't matter anymore, and we can say whatever we need to in order to support ourselves and our, perspective, our team, right? Then, where does that take us?
What happens now?
Yeah, what happens?
I think there's going to have to be a lot of sacrifices first. Like, I think we have to start with ourselves and just be like, I'm not going to participate in that. Mm-hmm. I think that is really a problem. And I think what the person said to you is actually reflecting the fact that that is generating a crisis, and that people don't know where to go for truth.
Right.
So I actually think that all the time. Like, when I hear about something or read about something in the news, it feels like it's becoming more and more difficult to find trusted sources.
Yeah. For sure, yeah.
And that pretty much all the players are difficult because the images and the volume of information is so thick and so fast. It kind of takes a PhD to kind of like get down and break down each story and be like, okay, what about this one versus this one versus this one versus this one? It's not just that there's more information. It's becoming ever easier to create it in more sophisticated ways.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we're yet feeling the effect of AI on that, but I think that the AI is going to make it even worse.
Way worse.
But I think it is actually a real crisis. When I think about that, I can think of what are the long-term solutions. I think I can kind of like see what the long-term solutions are, but then in the medium or short term, I think it gets really hard
Mm-hmm.
because we're in the midst of a big, big transition.
Mm-hmm.
I had this like kind of way of saying it, which is that we used to care about what was true.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we care about what's beautiful or pleasing is maybe a better way to say that.
Mm-hmm.
And what will eventually happen is we'll start to care about what is good. I think this could actually be better in the long run. It used to be as like, well, this is true. It doesn't matter if it's good. Like that person's a smart guy who understands the universe. So we give him lots of money and he's the guru and he's the really smart guy that we trust.
Right.
And he could be a completely immoral person. I think we had a lot of this in the church was like, they're the best preacher.
Yes.
They deliver the word to me in a way that, you know,
I like it.
I like it. It's easy to understand. It's accessible.
Makes me feel good.
It's got alliteration. So it's got the 3 R's for the week.
Yeah.
And then it didn't really matter like how good of a person they were.
Well, no, that's true. Yeah.
But then now that we're in this age where the preacher's word doesn't really matter as much because you can hear from the professor at some college tell you about something about the Bible that has had, you know, fascinating and has years of training more than a pastor would have. Or you can have the person on blank news network tell you how that Jesus really didn't say to turn the other cheek, like that we're all about just getting back at our enemies. That's what the real Jesus is.
Right. But I think that's and I think that's the point, or at least for me, that is my nightmare. That is where when I've lied to you so much that when I tell you the truth, you're less likely to believe it, then we start to, that becomes our filter then for everybody in the world. And so we hear a professor tell us this is what the Greek word means. And we hear Tom, the Sunday school teacher who hasn't quite read through the Bible before and doesn't really have a familiarity with the Greek or Hebrew language, but they tell us what the original language means in a particular spot, and we're as likely to take their word for it as we are
The professor. Yeah.
And that is, I think that's the bed we've made. And whether it's, there are just so many places you can go, right? Times where you've had something wrong with your car and you take it in and they tell you it's one thing, but it turns out you didn't really need to spend, $5,000 on that part.
Yeah.
Or you go to the doctor and the doctor says, this is what's wrong with you. And then later you find out you really didn't need to go through all that you went through. It was actually just an allergy, and certainly with our news outlets and all that stuff. I mean, I would never go to CNN or any of those outlets with an expectation that what I was going to see there was pure, unadulterated truth. It's just, and so then, where do we turn?
Yeah.
And what do we have to say to each other?
I mean, I think we have to start by looking to create and trust the good. So I think that I think we are actually going to have to gird ourselves and kind of be like, it's going to be a little bit of a rough road. I think we're having to rebuild in real time the institutions in society. And so I think we have to start with, okay, I'm not going to be able to fix, like, these forces are just so much bigger.
Right.
And I can't control them. Let's just assume that I'm right in my diagnosis. And this really is just a huge economic shift. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than any corporation. It's bigger than any government.
Right.
So it's going to take some time to work out. I think that the first thing is let's look for groups and institutions that focus on doing good, that like doing what is right. Like in the fruit test, like how do we know? We're going to have to see what the fruit of certain organizations are. So like if you're evaluating a news source, a person, an institution, it's just like, how do they treat their neighbors? How do they speak about their enemies? Are they clear about their financial practices? What is their reputation? So when I'm filtering news now, I actually have a few outlets that I use that have made explicit that we're not like about hype. We're focused on getting things as right as we can. If we make a mistake, we correct them. That are not national news sources. They're alternative media, but they've made clear like what their foundational values are. They're not the biggest. They're not the one that we're the most impressive. They're not. They're not the one that like we can get the best investigative journalists and even know the truth immediately. They're just like, we might not be the first, but we're going to try to be honest about what's going on. So I think that we have to start prioritizing that, and then building alliances with other people of peace. So, you know, the pastors, the people in your congregation who are like, we want to be peaceful. We'll stand up for what is true, but we're not going to get dragged into the craziness.
Sure.
Like, we're going to keep following the way. I mean, does that, what do you think when you hear that? Does that?
I think you sound very woke.
You do?
Yeah, I think that sounds very leftist, very woke. As soon as you say peacemakers or people of peace, that sounds very woke to me. And I guess that's just what I find troubling, that I can discount all of the insight you just shared by just saying
you sound woke.
Yeah.
That's funny because one of the sites I'm thinking of that I use is more a conservative leaning site, but they would also be called woke.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, that's what we've come down to. You don't even have to be quote unquote woke, whatever in the world that means.
Yeah.
If you posit data that somebody else doesn't like, in this case, somebody on the right doesn't like.
But it's equal opportunity. I mean, you can get it from the left too.
Yeah, I just don't think they use the word woke.
Right. No, they would use a different
pejorative.
Yeah, different pejorative. Yeah.
But it's, you know, it's you know, you offer up data that somebody doesn't like, and we dismiss you with fascist. You're a fascist.
You're a fascist. Yeah.
And we don't even have to know what that word means in order for us to use it in a way to shut you down. And in fact, I mean, I hear people on one side using the word fascist as if we all understand what that word means, and clearly we don't. And then people on the right throwing around words like woke, that as if we know what that means, or DEI. Oh, that's DEI. You know, well, what does that mean?
These words have really, I can think of 15 different words where it's just like these words become these attacks on people where it's like, you're this.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we're not going to have a conversation about what is true or beautiful or good or peaceful. What we're going to have a conversation about is, what fits my ideology, what confirms my ideology. And that is, from my perspective, that's just a recipe for disaster. I always find truth existing in the midst of tension, where it's not just we all are of this opinion, but rather we've talked together, like in the book of Acts, where the church meets together and they say, it seems right to us and to the Holy Spirit, that there was a place that they came to collectively, cooperatively, after a great deal of conversation, that even if you look at the context of it within the book of Acts and Paul's epistles, everybody was not feeling it. They weren't all on the same page, but in the midst of that tension, they came to a position. And I think that that's healthier than this place we run to, where it's just, this is what my side thinks, this is what your side thinks. But even beyond all that, I think all that's important. But I think the thing that scares me the most right now, James, is just that people who are responsible people with a tremendous amount of power can look right into the camera and say things that they know
are false.
And there's no blush. And the people they're talking to know what they're saying is false, and there's no pushback to it.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, let's move on to the next talking point. And I feel like ultimately that can't help but filter down into husband and wife relationships, father and child relationships, boss and employee relationships. I think it just becomes pervasive, and I don't think it started with this administration. Like this is a long time coming, and I just find it personally, like, I'm a 5 on the Enneagram.
Okay.
The investigator.
Which means,
So for me, seeking out the truth, seeking out the answer is important.
It's huge. Yeah.
And so if all of a sudden truth is relative, like always relative, if truth is always a moving target, then for me, my anxiety goes
through the roof.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then I don't know where I'm at in relationship with people. I don't know where I'm at in relationship to business. I don't know where I'm at. And it leaves me feeling like even on a personal level, like on a human, personal, interacting with other human beings level, I feel like I don't know what to say to someone in many contexts because they won't just automatically give me the benefit of the doubt that what I'm saying to them is something that's true. And I don't feel like I can take
what they're saying
just automatically as true, because it's become so pervasive.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happens. I remember from anthropology, when I was studying anthropology in university, that there was, a tribe where they valued, not telling the truth. Like if kind of like the Loki kind of a thing. If you could fool people, then that was like, wow, good on you for fooling everybody. And, kudos to you. And, but that, studying that culture and how it worked, you could see the breakdown in that culture, like on just a number of levels.
Yeah.
Because that was so
pervasive.
It became so pervasive.
So do you feel like this happens to you in person a lot? Or is it mainly through online interactions / sources?
I would say, because of the kind of person I am, it's mostly absorbed through media and social media. And I say that because as an introverted person, I'm not jumping into large groups of people to have conversations or debates.
Yeah.
But I do find, and this isn't like, I'm not saying this to provoke anybody, or this is going to be judgmental, and I'll just say that up front. But when, like, there are people, I won't say, maybe I shouldn't say, because it's just going to provoke people. But there are, I'll put it this way, there are well-known podcast personalities, who are famous as podcast personalities, who have built a reputation on their podcasting and the content of what they deliver or what they present in public discourse. Okay, all right, I'm just going to say it. I'm not. So you take somebody like Jordan Peterson, who literally makes stuff up on the spot, to support what he is the argument he's trying to make.
Yeah.
And the more and more he's ventured into religion and the Bible,
he's really out of his depth. Yeah.
So far out of his depth, but he speaks with the same authority with which he speaks about everything else, the same certainty, that he speaks about everything else. And he says stuff that is absolutely bonkers. Like it has no tether to reality.
Yeah.
And yet then, you'll have conversations with people who will, Jordan Peterson says, and it's like, well, if this is your appeal to authority, we're not in the same boat. Like I don't even know how to, because he's willing to say anything.
Yeah. I totally, the way in which people speak with certainty about things and through media, it just spreads like wildfire.
Yeah. That
is really dismaying. I think it is causing social breakdown. I think it is led to where we are today. I think it is primarily financially driven. Like, I think it is primarily like Jordan Peterson, 8 years ago, wrote a book that was like, men, take care of yourself, make your bed, do things like that. And some people got a lot out of that.
Right.
And then he got famous and wealthy. And then, and he made money by being this caricature of himself.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the more he is this caricature, the more he draws people to him.
Yep.
And so it rewards him for being this caricature. And I just think that used to be so limited because it was limited to celebrities who really got famous because they were actors or politicians, or maybe like somehow connected to the news. Like that was it. That was really the three ways you got famous. And basically the rest of the, like, your normal life, if you weren't in one of those categories, like, you were successful because you did something well. Like if you're Jordan Peterson before the internet days, it's like, but there were these people. It's just, I mean, there were these gurus who would write bestsellers.
That's right.
Like, but they were just so much more limited in their impact. Yeah. And I think that's the thing is like, we've enabled Jordan Peterson we've enabled him to become a cult leader so easily. Yeah. It's like now he can command millions because of media's reach.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, like, when I think about that, I think it's not an answer, but I do think there's a hunger for stuff that's not that way. Like, I do hear a lot of people express in some way some of the things that you're saying is I am looking for something meaningful in person, outside this bubble. I don't know quite how to get out of it.
Right.
And I hear it from all sides, almost even like I could pick a George Peterson guru follower and I could talk to them for a minute, and I bet I could still find that desire. And they've kind of satiated it with Jordan Peterson.
Right, yeah.
But it's not, and so that's why I say I think people are looking for what is beautiful, what is aesthetically pleasing right now, and that is eventually going to disappoint. I don't know how long it's going to take for that to become so disappointing that people just start looking for what is good. But it could take centuries, I don't know. Or it could take 5 years, and everything happens faster in the internet time.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess for me, I feel the clock ticking. So, I'm a man of a certain age, and so I don't want to live long enough to see the dark ages, nor die so soon that I miss the recovery of our senses. Yeah,
yeah. I don't know what's going to happen. I think if we're sober about this, like, we can't fool ourselves. Like the way the economics and modern media reward false things is really bad. And it's going to be really bad for us. I don't know that it has to end in apocalypse. Like I do think that everything, I said that a second ago jokingly, everything happens faster with the internet. Yep. So the reaction to the problems is faster. True. I think ironically, we're kind of insulated. We think America's the worst, but I actually think it's worse in other places. We just don't know about it. But I think there's a lot of other countries where the moves into kind of, fascistic or, anti-democratic type things is been more rapid and more encompassing than it has been in the United States. You think about Russia. Russia, went away from the Soviet Union. It wasn't Soviet anymore. It wasn't this kind of dictatorly closed country. It became Western. It didn't do it very well. And it kind of immediately reverted back to this kind of authoritarian mess. Right. I mean, China started to open up, and now it's become much more closed and is having some there's a lot of freedoms that have been lost recently in China. Yep. Places like Hungary, Brazil, Poland, we've seen these move much faster than the United States in that direction. So, but I think there's counterforces. I think in the midst of that despair, I do see counterforces acting too. I do see a hunger for people, for truth, for goodness. That I think, only thing I can say is I think we have to just be really sober about what the consequences are going to be and work tirelessly, what is good? Who are people who are doing good things? I was really hit by what you said, that some people are just going to think that I'm talking woke. I'm almost like, well, then they're just going to do that. And I'm just going to be like, I'm not going to join your parade. Yeah, yeah. I don't know what else to say. Yeah. I'm not going to join that parade. Yeah, yeah. And I think the other thing we can do is be really patient and try to find the humanity in each other. But I don't know. I'm sorry. You pose these questions. I'm like, I think in the long run, we'll find it, but I don't know what we're going to do in the short run.
Looking for some hope here, man. Come on. Yeah, no, I mean, I think a lot of the things you've said are right. And I do find what you've said encouraging, that, that we certainly are, it feels like, and living in an accelerated time. And so hopefully that means that while there will be pain, we will pass through it more quickly to get to something better on the other side of it. I was telling somebody today, like, talking with Christians sometimes, they talk about having faith in God and God's got this, and God's not surprised by all these things, and God's in control. And those are all lovely thoughts, and they look really, sweet on a cross stitch, thing up on the wall. But the reality is, if you know church history, the church has been, to hell and back again when God was in control, and Christians were being, covered in pitch and set on fire to light, outdoor parties for the Romans, and they were being crucified and fed to lions. And, history does not give us an easy out. So this is where, again, we bump into the what is true, right? What is the truth? But if history is true, then God doesn't seem committed to the ease of our life or causing things to work together so that we face no pain.
Yeah.
And so that's where, I feel like we just need to be a little bit sober about that we could be, headed for some hard times. But like you say, maybe we'll go through those quickly and we'll get to the other side. And Jordan Peterson will just write children's books and it'll be a better world.
I think one thing we can also do is think with mercy, like people are being affected, like with Jordan Peterson. I don't know that Jordan Peterson's a happy person.
He doesn't appeal.
Yeah.
He doesn't come across that way to me, but yeah.
I think one thing that's helped me is to think that everybody is being affected by forces that they don't understand right now.
That's for sure, yeah.
And so one way I can be merciful is, okay, this person who's saying this terrible thing, and I'm not absolving them for responsibility,
right?
But things have changed very, very fast.
Mm-hmm.
And people are not always rational in how they react to that, and they don't always understand what they're being affected by.
That's right. Yeah.
So
that's true.
I'm reminded of scripture, like our enemies are not flesh and blood.
Mm-hmm.
They are powers and principalities.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the forces of things in the world that are beyond our control, spiritual forces that are regular forces that are beyond our control, spiritual forces that are beyond our control. Other flesh and blood people are images and created in the image of God.
Yeah.
And they bear responsibility for their actions, but they are also just people who don't understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's like Socrates searches around to try to find anybody who knows the truth, and Socrates is like, nobody knows anything.
Right.
That's the truth, is that nobody understands it.
Right. But not to be argumentative as we wrap this up.
Well, we are dissent. So.
But we are dissent. But we also have to keep in mind that the same text that tells us that we wrestle not against flesh and blood also is not afraid of naming humans as antichrists.
Yeah.
And so we do exist in this tension where we identify that there are people, in fact, who are living anti the kingdom of God and the things of God, crazy things like love, and that seek to do harm to us physically and our souls. And
I think we can name it and remember they're not in charge. Like they act like they're in charge. Sometimes they are in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can call out the things that are wrong.
Yeah.
But limit how much of our thought life is obsessed with them. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I think you're right. Yeah. Like I do think we don't want to multiply their power by making them the focus of our lives, for sure.
And I think we can also practice focusing on embodied communities.
Yeah.
Face-to-face interactions.
Yeah.
And when we do that, both in the embodied and of course on the online, practice discernment with humility as like a spiritual practice. Like the idea, I might be wrong,
Yeah.
Take that as like a spiritual practice
Yeah.
when we approach somebody else.
Yeah.
And just work to do that every day.
Yeah. And I think, like you said earlier, I think that was really actually profound, is that we don't have to march in that parade. We can choose to exempt ourselves from those parades. We don't have to embrace those things. We can live, a contrary life. And by contrary, I don't mean like
Contrarian.
Yeah, not like being a butthead, but you can just say, I'm not going that way.
Yeah.
You guys can go that way, but I'm not going that way.
I was dismayed for a long time, and I'm still kind of dismayed, but I realized that it was just so much that was outside of my control. I'm not going to join those parades. I'm going to do the things I can, but it's so much bigger than me. And that's okay. And I think, releasing that, it's not like it fixes it, but it's like, I'll do what I can to fix the world, but I'm not responsible for fixing the world.
Right.
Well, with that hopeful, exciting podcast of how you too can become a millionaire telling people what to believe on YouTube, maybe we will leave you with enjoying, if you are in the southern states like us, enjoying a little bit cooler weather. And hopefully the fall is coming with its beautiful leaves, and we can all have a little moment of peace outside. Just enjoy the fall.
Touch some grass, hug a tree.
Yeah.
Just be careful how woke you get.
That's true. All right. We'll see you next time, everybody.
Cheers.
Have a good one.